okay, the impact I could have, go deep, not wide. Just go the extra mile. It's not crowded.
If you want to change the world, first people will hate you, then they'll fight you, and then you'll win.
And this isn't about convincing people to do shit that they don't want to do.
Of just like collect rejections, like get obsessed with collecting rejections.
One formula has generated over $3 million worth of revenue.
Wow.
So just saying, it's a great formula. We often get asked this question from students and from our audience. Okay, if you two were starting again, how would you do things differently? Or what would you do if you were me? So we thought it would be valuable to bring to the Untapped podcast a conversation where we really get to reflect on the 7 years we've been in the thought leadership industry, working as coaches, building a company, building a team, having a community, running hundreds of different types of programs, to really think about how we would respond to this question and create an episode that's going to be super valuable for you. So a little bit about the context of this. We're responding to this as if we were starting out with little resources. So no team, none of the financial means that we now have, but actually we're allowed to have all the knowledge and internal wisdom that we have today. So that's how we're going to answer this question. So this is a really beautiful chance for us to reflect as well, which is awesome because as entrepreneurs, we're very futuristic. We're very focused on where we're going to go, what we're doing next, what we haven't done yet. So it was actually really cool just sitting out, having a coffee, sitting out on our terrace, like really sitting with this question and thinking about, okay, what was it really like when we started, and what are the things we'd do again, and what are the things we would do differently? So Dalaney, I am curious to know, what is your number one thing when you think of if you were starting over your journey right now, what is the number one thing you would do differently?
What if I told you that I would have really got rid of this notion that I had to do it on my own? That just eliminating the notion of doing it solo. And the way I'll do it differently is not only seek out mentorship, which we'll dive into even deeper, but really seeking out a business partner from the very beginning. And how you do that is really understanding, I wish I understood my own strengths sooner, faster, through reflection, through coaching, through values, through really trial and error, and really finding that opposite of me to really support me, and we could support each other by balancing off each other and having strengths where the other was weak, and really growing a business and growing something together, rather than thinking that the thought leadership space or whatever needs to be this personal brand, our solo business type model, right?
I think that's really huge. I've actually heard recently, the last few days, a few different people say a similar thing. It's like, I wish I had a business partner from the start, because a lot of us think entrepreneurship should be on our own. And we were just saying we should create an app or a Tinder for business partners looking for business partners. Because I think when you start, you're like, oh, no one would do it like me, or no one wants to do this. And you feel so alone in it. So I really love that as, something you would do differently. And obviously, of course, you eventually found a business partner, which is great as well.
Yeah, it's also just really leaning into that illusion that entrepreneurship is a solo journey. This weird notion of solo entrepreneurship is so unbelievably not true. Like, even thinking about famous entrepreneurs, like, just to go full cliche, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or whatever, or, Steve Jobs, is they get idolized as these individuals, but people just seem to ignore the fact that they have teams of like tens of thousands that are actually building what they're doing. So it's just really reflecting that as well. And then the other side of a lot of successful CEOs is also a COO behind there who's the one cleaning up everything, doing the operations, and really growing the business. So it's really just reflecting on that and being like, who do I want to do this with? And what type of person is the perfect balance of myself? Yeah, super important.
Yeah. And so for myself, I think if I think about the number one thing is that I tried a lot of things initially, which was great. And, I was coaching 70-year-old people looking for their purpose and running these corporate trainings, and then coaching on the side and one-to-one and group and men and women. And that was a really great thing to experience and have that depth and breadth with all these different types of people. If I was starting again, the real moment, our business, my business, the version of Untapped as it used to be in that model, when it really took off was when I truly committed to one person and one problem. And that is what I would do differently if I was starting over, is I would make that commitment earlier. I think experimentation is great, but I think we rip up stuff that we're doing. We try something, we give it one go, we do one launch for it, one event, and then we just rip it all up and do another thing and do another thing. And I think actually playing the long game and committing and really focusing on one person and really adding as much value to that person as possible would have been so helpful. And when I say adding value, I think that's a huge mindset piece as well. It's something I did really well and have always believed in business, and I do believe was something that really made the difference, is I did small things that were not scalable but added huge value. So I used to run these Why Wednesday sessions at a cafe, and I would be there every week. Consistency matters. So I think if you're trying to make an impact in a particular community or with a particular avatar and client, you need to be there, be reliable, and be consistent. And it didn't matter to me if one person came or if 17 people came. I was there, waiting and ready to be of service to that particular avatar at that time, which was all about supporting, young corporates who were working in professional industries to find something they really love and design a life they really love. That consistency, doing something really intimate that wasn't scalable, didn't even have a digital presence, really built intimacy, built community, and meant that type of community and that avatar and that client could start to rely on me. And it built the reputation that I'm here for this person, I can solve this problem. And I honestly believe, and have seen myself do this and see so many of our students do this, it's just not giving something enough time and commitment. Now, it wasn't till about 9 months after doing that people were like, oh, this thing is a thing. Like, you're still talking about it. And I think that's really huge, is we get so bored by our offers and so bored by our businesses, but actually it takes the market like 6 to 9 months to actually cotton on to like, wow, you've talked about this 70 times, you're still doing it. Okay, maybe I should listen now. So I would have committed to one person and one problem sooner in my journey, because that is what created the exponential results. That is what created a powerful reputation. And that is what I believe, all of us struggle to do, but it really, really amplifies your impact and how quickly you grow.
So, B, a lot of people do struggle with that question of like, who do I serve? What problem do I solve? And that fear, I would say, of niching. How would you coach yourself through that stressful turbulence of niching down and choosing your one specific problem?
I think one of my favorite mantras is like one purpose, many missions. It's like whatever you choose, you can change at any point. And what if you even just say, okay, for 2 years, I'm going to do everything in my power, everything in my will, use all my gifts for this avatar and see what I can build and create. And then after 2 years, I could reassess and maybe try another avatar or another problem, right? And really realizing as soon as you've validated that there's one person like that client, which for me was working with really ambitious, high-performing women who were transitioning out of corporate. That's the first avatar I ever worked with. The moment I found one of them, I found 70 of them. I found 500 of them, right? And then it was building a movement and really an identity around that transformation and that process. And so I think if you're afraid of the commitment, just consider, okay, the impact I could have, go deep, not wide. I can go deep for 2 years with this avatar, see what I can create, and then go again. And that's really been my career as well, as I've worked with lots of different avatars. And in the 2 year to 3 year timeframe commitment or longer, the depth and breadth of the impact you can make when you're clear is so much bigger than just scattergun for 10 years.
Amazing. You also mentioned early on in your journey, you did many, what we would call now, unscalable actions. Now, if you were to plonk an epiphany into someone's head around doing those things and really leaning into those tasks that feel, non-passive and are really going to take a lot of energy and time, what would be that epiphany, and what would be your advice to that person of doing the grinding, doing the hard stuff, doing the non-scalable activities?
Just go the extra mile. It's not crowded. Go the extra mile.
That's a good one.
The last 20% of really committing to your clients, of going the extra mile, of solving another problem, of giving them a quick call when they're in a time of need, of making a connection in your network for them when they need something. That extra 20% is what will build your business and have you stand out from every other company. And I really believe it doesn't matter if you're starting out, but if you're starting out, that extra mile is everything, right? And it should always be in business, but really that it's not crowded there. It's crowded at the just design a course and hope everyone does it. It's not crowded at give accountability, add more value, get guest experts, right? Create community. Like that is the exponential piece that will set you apart.
I love that. Go the extra mile. It's interesting you say 20% because I actually recently heard a statistic that's even less than that said competitors who are 3 times bigger than their nearest competitor only do 15% more. Now, that more could be like a different way they do marketing or a different sales team or whatever it might be, but they only do 15% more for 3 times a bigger of a business. So it truly is that go the extra mile because it's less crowded there is such a good one-liner and such a good thing to remember. Is really it's about how you win this game, any business game, is whoever provides the most value wins, is my version of that one-liner that I really stick to and add value to all the time and really leaning into. I love it.
How about for you, Dee? What's another, if you were starting over now with the wisdom that you have, but not necessarily the resources, what's something else you would do differently?
I think it's something you touched on as well, but it was definitely a big one for me, which was I gave up too early on so many offerings, on so many products. And I was recently reading a book that's The Mountain Is You, and it shared this particular distinction on self-sabotage of uprooting. And when I read that distinction of uprooting, I was like, that was me when I was starting out, where I would launch an offer and get crickets, right? Like a new coaching offer, a speaking gig or something, get nothing. And then rather than lean into that and educate the audience, educate my potential people, and really let it germinate and grow in the market that this is a thing, I would constantly just rip things out. Like I've got, I think last time I counted, I had 28 courses in my Google Drive that I had designed and built and made offers around and put it out into the world. So it's really about letting things germinate and knowing that things take the time they take. There's an energetics principle here as well of like things usually take about 6 to 9 months to really germinate and sink in and people to understand what's going on. And funnily enough, that's how long it takes for a human to gestate. So it's kind of interesting to think that's how long it might take it for an idea to gestate and the idea of your market. So it's really important to lean in. And when you feel like you've really cracked that specific problem for a specific person in a specific way that people really want and ready to buy, it's just really then leaning in and educating people on that. And it's that classic one-liner of like, if you want to change the world, first people will hate you, then they'll fight you, and then you'll win. And it's kind of a similar connected here, that one-liner, but it's really knowing that if you want to create a change, you're going to be speaking to empty rooms at first. And then one by one, they'll trickle in, and then you'll get the momentum. It's not going to be this huge momentum from the very beginning. So it's really letting things gestate, not ripping things up too early, and knowing that good things take time. Patience as well, I guess, is the moral there as well.
I think it's a really good insight. Like uprooting can be self-sabotage, right? Really understanding that you feel like it's because, I just need some change or whatever. And that was an interesting insight we got in our personal life, because obviously, if you don't know, Dee and I, we're life and business partners. So we work together, we create together, we're life partners, right? So something we notice is that we got so much variety in our business. Like we love, one of our top human needs from Tony Robbins' work is variety, and we love change and we love new things. And we were getting so much from the business as well in the change, in the growth. And what we realized actually, and I think something we changed that if I was starting again, I would do this, is that we made the business more consistent. We simplified it, we slimmed it down, we cut away the fat, we chose, we committed, and then we got the variety, expansion, and creativity in other places in our life as well. Doing new workouts, working on our health, learning about investment, traveling, right? We actually realized and had this blind spot of how much variety we were trying to get from the business, when actually really, some boring business, systematized business, these are the businesses that grow. These are the businesses that become profitable. These are the businesses that become easy. Otherwise, you're just going to be working like 18-hour days creating new shit every second day. So actually, that's something I would do differently, is put more creativity around in my life and our life so that the business could actually be simplified and systematized as well.
I love that. You mentioned earlier around mindset, and you really leaned into that, the importance of the mindsets that you need when you're starting out. I'm curious on your journey, B, is what would be a skill set that you wish you learned earlier? And what maybe did you focus on instead that you would maybe advise yourself, hold on, like that's enough of that? And what would be the skill set you wish you learned faster or earlier from the beginning of your journey?
I think what it's interesting that no one necessarily talks about learning early in business, and I actually think it's one of the skills people learn way too late, is sales. You're an entrepreneur. You suddenly find that problem. You find the person you want to help, the problem they have, and you create your solution. The next thing you need to learn how to do is sell it. And people have so many misconceptions around what sales is, what it means, how to go about it, right? Our philosophy is that sales is service. And there is so much power to be able to enroll someone in a vision. Like a sales conversation is a really sacred conversation. When I finally learned sales skills from aligned people that I could resonate with, that were more heart-centered, I was like, wow, now I get what sales is. And I stopped floundering in these conversations. I used to have 2 to 3 hour conversations that were just value, which were great. I was basically coaching. And then people would be like, hey, well, thank you, Briony. This has been amazing. I'm so glad. And then they would ghost and never sign up for anything because I didn't know how to create a sales conversation. I didn't know how to position what I had. I didn't know how to make it an irresistible kind of thing that people are like, all right, sign me up. I didn't have that skill. I'd never had to do that in my life. So absolutely, day one, hour one, minute one, I would learn sales as well as creating an amazing product and, really refining that. But I got obsessed with that. And I did that for like 2.5 years. And it was great. It led to an amazing product. But absolutely, once you feel like you have a solution, you have an amazing product design, you can actually then be like, okay, now I get to learn how to sell this and how to position that. So I think starting a business, honestly, without honing business skills like sales, it wouldn't be how I would do business. If you want to be in the game of business, you need to learn business skills.
Nice. What would be the mindset you wish you had at the beginning of learning sales, and where would you start your journey of learning sales?
So the mindset shift was that sales is not slimy. Sales is service. If you believe in your product, in your service, if you know the impact it can make, then of course you want to get into sales. So you've got to get out of your own way, get equipped with some frameworks. So the real first piece is really having that internal shift that, wow, what I have is incredible, and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start selling it and sharing it, right? And this isn't about convincing people to do shit that they don't want to do. This is about sharing a transformation. This is about sharing a solution for what you've created. When you're in that frequency, people can actually feel that shift, that you're not attached to the outcome. You don't mind if people sign up or not, but you are there to be of service, right? And then the sale, the actual transaction becomes so easy. And if you feel like in the beginning you don't have that confidence, the best thing you can do is add as much value as you can, get as many free people or beta versions or reduced prices or whatever through your program so you can build that absolute confidence in what you have available and the results you create. And before I would get on sales calls, I would do my meditation. I would watch all these testimonial videos every day of students' lives that I had impacted, because that isn't in your cells yet. When you're first starting your business, you haven't got that deep rooted, grounded power. You kind of have this inner knowing and this intuition that, oh, okay, yeah, I'm here to make a difference and I can help people, but you don't have that anchored like solar plexus, like boom, I'm here. And so what I used to do is watch these videos and just be like, wow, okay. And it was people's transformation. It was their life changing from this. And that was the biggest shift for me in my energy around sales. Because when I then would enter the world or create content with that kind of power, obviously the energetic match would come back. And then on a pragmatic level, I love that you touched on that. It's like, where would I go? What would I learn? I learned one incredible sales framework. It's called the 9-step formula. It's how to have an effective sales conversation for service-based things, right? It's not gimmicky. It's not handling objections. It's not getting people to pay on the phone and convincing them. It is a powerful context. It puts you in your leadership. It makes sure you are leading the call in the conversation versus just floundering and coaching like I did for years and then wondering why no one signed up. And it gives you a framework to follow until you build that confidence of, okay, now I get where I'm going in these conversations and the pieces I need to hit. And the amazing thing about this framework is, when you've had a conversation that lands flat and you're like, oh, I didn't go into that bit enough. And when you have a conversation that's amazing, you know why. And so like any communication curriculum framework that we teach in our work, the sales framework is a a conversation for communication, for how to have an effective conversation around someone's transformation and what they want to create. So those two things, I would absolutely learn that framework. If you want it, send us a message on Instagram. Just message us sales, and we'll send you. We've got a conscious sales training workshop that's got all of that magic in there. That one formula has generated over $3 million worth of revenue. So just saying, it's a great formula.
I also loved recently on one of our mastery coaching calls, you were coaching one of our clients who got their first few rejections on sales calls they've ever had. And I remember you just sharing with them of just like collect rejections, like get obsessed with collecting rejections, because the whole purpose of that 9-step sales formula is to help people get to an empowered yes or an empowered no. Because we're really here to help speed up evolution, speed up decision making, and help people get in alignment of what they need next for their journeys. And that's one of my favorite things about this framework that we use, is it's not about convincing, it's not about sales really, it's about service. It's about how can I help this person make a decision on what they need to do next in their life. I absolutely love that.
Well, we've talked about, really choosing and committing to a customer and a problem and creating something amazing for them, then learning how to sell that thing. I think then what's really interesting is you start to generate a little bit of revenue, right? And I know I made a lot of mistakes about what I invested in, what I spent money in. I know you did 2D. So I think it'd be really valuable to share a little bit about, okay, well, let's say, not the resources we have now, but let's say you made your first kind of $5,000 in business, or your first little bit of like extra profit. What is it that you would invest in based on, your experience now, what you saw to be valuable? What would you then spend your money on when you just start generating that little bit of profit?
And I know what I know now.
Yeah. What would you spend on?
My very first spend would be hiring a virtual assistant or an EA to do the admin tasks, the $10 tasks that are consuming way too much of my time. It's really thinking about who, not how, and getting out of that grind of the small, cheap tasks. Again, my biggest epiphany was breaking that illusion of solo entrepreneurship, of like really getting out of the control of needing to be in control and needing to do everything myself and that weird belief system, and really going that like better with others is better, and really like hiring that support to do the cheap tasks, the repetitive tasks, the small tasks, the onboarding, the emails, the sending invoices, the simple repetitive tasks. I'll do that from the get-go, because really hiring that early stage people, when you feel like I don't have time for that, it's like you do. Because if you hire someone to do those small tasks, you then have so much more time, energy, and inspiration to do the things that matter to grow your business. You have more energy to go to that networking event on Thursday night. You have more energy to do those, live events or social media posts or whatever it is you're there to make, and long form, deep thinking, deep product design and elevation, because you're not wasting hours sending invoices or follow up little small dinky tasks, So that would be my first thing, is get out of the $10 tasks as soon as possible.
And I think it's really good to touch on as well is not everyone outsources the same things, right? So what is the process you would figure out or use to actually be able to say, how do I know exactly who to hire and what to get them to do?
Well, one of my philosophies, and I know you share this philosophy as well, is really doing like an energy audit and really protecting the things that give you energy. And those are the things you should be doing every day. Like some people get a lot of energy from doing sales. Some people get a lot of energy from delivering their services. Some people get a lot of energy writing long form blogs for hours on end, and protecting those tasks. Don't outsource things you actually enjoy doing because some other thought leader said you should or some coach said you should. Protect your top priority energetic tasks the most. And then all the tasks that you feel incompetent at, that exhaust you, that you just can't stand doing, and that are repeatable. So one of the biggest lessons here as well is don't think you need to hire someone to grow your business, like paying $5,000 for a flashy consultant who says they're going to get you PR. Hire a low level to do your business. The repetitive small tasks, the repetition, the things you have to do again and again and again. Hire someone to do that stuff. And you're being like, no one wants to do that stuff. Yes, people do. There's definitely people out there that like repetitive small tasks, consistent, clear income, job, roles. So it's really like getting into that of like protecting your top energy tasks that you love doing, and then clearing away the things that you don't enjoy doing that are low energy and low cost. Part of the energy audit is you can do the energy of the task and then the monetary value of what you think that task is. So say a sales call would be like $5,000, if that was a $5,000 client. Sending a follow-up email is probably a $50 task. So it's like, okay, that'd be the first thing I outsource is the follow-up email versus sales call.
And that's been one of the best habits that I've implemented since I learned that concept, is doing that every quarter and just going, what is on my plate that does not need to be on my plate anymore, and doing it through that exact template. What is the task? What is the energy level? How much does it cost me? Am I going to do it, delegate it, do it differently? And that one habit has totally transformed how we operate as leaders and given us back, I'd say 20 plus hours a week in our operating system by doing that and then outsourcing it. And then you know exactly, like you said, Dee, exactly what to outsource, exactly what to hand over, because you can't just copy someone's role description that they did for their EA. It doesn't work, because what you want your EA or VA to do is totally different from the next person. And then you need to train them in your systems and and you've got an asset for life, and you get to come back and learn and then focus. And I think that leads really beautifully into really naturally into what I would invest in, right? And I think I love that you said that as your first, because a lot of people join programs and courses and things and they haven't got enough bandwidth because they're so freaking burnt out, or they're just on the hamster wheel and they have no support. And then they can't even do the programs or the courses that they registered into because they're doing so much of their business. And so I really like that yours was that. For me, I spent, what I would invest in with the first kind of few $1,000s in profit, a hands-on business coach. So I would invest in, once I've done my little sales training, which you should go get in the Untapped app and do that straight away. That's the best $147, I think it is, that you'll ever spend. I would then get a business coach who could give me that direct feedback. A business coach would have been, or should have been, one of my earliest investments. I spent about 2.5 years kind of floundering, figuring things out, doing certification after certification. I think I'd spent about $50,000 already on different certifications and not yet had a business coach. And I believe that, as soon as you have the expertise and you have the offering, the very next thing you should spend that money on is getting someone who can just show you the ropes, because the amount of time that you can condense having someone who's already done it and can literally not only give you the frameworks and the systems, but actually give you the mindset and the belief. The amount of people, I think I'd be responsible for like $10 million worth of price raising, because people like come in, I charge $40 a session. It's like by the end of working with us, they're like, okay, now I charge $4,000, right? And it's not about just bigger rates, but actually having someone who can have the confidence and has done it a million times and is like, okay, actually, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to focus on, just to keep you on track and show you the ropes. I specifically remember working with a business coach early on. It was about maybe like 3 years in, actually. And I actually sent a screenshot of what people would be messaging me. So people would message me and say, hey, I'm interested in the program or whatever. And I would send this big, long message. And I sent it, and I wouldn't know why people wouldn't message me back, and they'd just ghost me. And I was like, that's weird. Like, they just never messaged me back. So I had this business coach that I was in his like 8-week program, and I messaged him and I said, hey, can you just have a quick look at this and let me know what you think? Like, I don't know where I'm going wrong. And this was Preston Smiles, who I've done loads of other trainings with, and he's hilarious. And he messaged me back straight away, and he said, never, ever send that message again. And I was just like, wait, what? I thought it was a great message. And because what was happening is people were messaging me and asking me for like info on the program, but I didn't know sales. I didn't know not freaking people out. So I would send this huge message with a PDF attached with all the information on the program. And at that moment, he was like, oh my gosh, like that's overwhelming for people. The first thing you need to do is just have a conversation like, hey, nice to hear from you. Yeah, of course we've got the info. Like, what's your challenges right now? And just start a more natural, organic conversation. But I had this mindset block that, I've just got to be transparent and upfront and give people everything they need at once, which was overwhelming my potential clients. And I hate to think how much money over 3 years prior to hiring him I had lost doing that. But as soon as I learned it, I was like, boom, okay. And this is something at Untapped that, we have Slack channels for every one of our programs, Incubator, Accelerator, Mastery. And our students blow up those Slack channels all day, every day. Hey, can someone have a quick look at this? Hey, I got this. What do you think about that? That hands-on, not just a shitty passive course that you do by yourself and no one ever looks at your stuff. The hands-on approach is critical because you can't just like YouTube and podcasts and things yet, because you need someone to get their eyes over. You'll have blind spots and things you can't even see right now as an entrepreneur. So as soon as you get a business coach who's done it and can kind of see your gaps, boom, you can just cut through probably 3 years of mistakes like that.
3 years, more like 10 years. It's also that huge
what you could be doing
skyrocket. Yeah. Because so many think that they can do it through books and podcasts, and it's like that is always often past based rather than actually having someone there who's going, like, imagine like a sports coach is like, just before you shoot the hoop, like just tweak your feet a little bit and then boom, you get it in. That's really what having that coach is about. One of our favorite one-liners is small hinges swing big doors. And those small hinges is often that coach, that mentor, that guide to just really tweak, like Briony experienced with the messaging. Something as well here, I think that's super important, Brian, and I know you had a big lesson on this, is profit. What is one of the biggest mistakes you made with profit? And now people are like, how can you have a mistake with profit? Profit is great. Profit is money. We all want more profit. But what was your biggest mistake around profit?
Yes, beautiful. So I read Profit First, Mike McCowart's book, and we have all his theories in our programs as well. And I learned how to manage my money, how to manage my cash flow, the importance of profit, how to prioritize profit. So, I'm once given a framework, I'm very sharp, and I was immediately like, I can apply this, I can do this. Within 12 months, I had generated about $300,000 in profit in the business. And that was great. That was awesome. That's a lot of money, right? This is at this isn't my first year, by the way. First year was I just made the same as my salary. So I could just break even with a whole bunch of hodgepodge offers. And then I think it was like 300,000 in the following year. So it was about the third or fourth year in business. I managed to generate like 300,000 of profit. And the biggest mistake I made with this profit from the company is that I invested it in other assets. So I invested it into the stock market, into property, into other assets that I believe would be able to generate me a return, because deep down, I did not trust the business. And that was a hard lesson to get. So I took this money, I was siphoning the profit out, which you obviously have to pay a significant amount of tax on as well. And I was putting it into assets like the stock market that are getting a 7% return. And I thought I was doing great, because I had read somewhere, one, profit first, and I was applying it, great. But two, that as a thought leader, you can't exit your business, so you need to have assets in other places. So I just got obsessed with this methodology. Meanwhile, not realizing that my business was the biggest asset I had sitting right in front of me. So 7% in the stock market, are you serious? Like, when you're an entrepreneur, if you put $300,000 into your business, you could have a $3 to $10 million like revenue jump in a really short space of time. Like the resources, the people you could hire, the business coaches,
the mentors.
So that was my biggest mistake. I'm really proud of what I achieved. I'm so grateful to have had those assets through an economic winter. And I wonder what could have been possible if I could have trusted earlier the business, if I could have put my whole heart and soul, if I could have put every cent back into the business as well. Like, it is what it is, but that's something I would do differently. I would have had proper allocations and really given the business back a significant amount at that time. And I did spend on some things, but on reflection, the return I could have got, I think people would probably ask, like, what are the types of things you would have spent on in the business? Like you mentioned, I would have hired a really great mentor. So I'd done a lot of coaching programs. So I got a lot of frameworks and systems I had implemented, but I would have got a mentor, someone who could look over my shoulder and go, boom, 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 go, go, go. I would have done that earlier. I would have hired full-time team members. For a long time, we had contractors and freelancers and a whole mix-up, make-up team of like freelancers. We now have full-time team members. It's transformational. I didn't believe or trust that I could afford to have a whole team of full-time team members all the time, and still felt this financial scarcity, even though my reality was that I had the money. So I would have done that. I would have hired full-time team members, and obviously, massively kept investing in myself, and maybe even, ads budgets and things. Media, PR, like things to get us exposure. But yeah, Instead, I just was like, okay, well, this is an asset I can control, so I might just put it over here. So yeah, I think if you're somewhere where, you are doing that, that's a really big blind spot, that you don't trust your business. And that's a deep relationship you need to work on with your business, is that you can trust it. And as an entrepreneur, it's the greatest asset you have right in front of you. Like, you can put 10 grand into a business coaching program and make back 300 grand plus the longevity of all the training that you got, plus the asset that you learn, the skills that you can teach others. Like, are you serious? That's like $1 million return on 10 grand. It's huge. And we see this with students. They come in, they learn some business frameworks, they start training other people. Okay, now they've got another revenue stream. Like, it's huge, huge value. So yeah, I would do that differently.
I think it's really important here as well to like lift the curtain a little bit and just share that on every single financial or team size or size of Untapped's transition has been a coach or mentor right there. From the transition from 130,000 to 300,000, from 300,000 to 500,000, and 500,000 to well over $1 million. Every single one of those transitions had a coach behind us, guiding us, supporting us.
Yeah, of course. You don't know.
In no way, shape, form did we do it on our own.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what it's going to take to go to the next level and the next level. You've never done it. And the brain actually tells you that it's going to be harder and it's going to be worse and it's going to be more work. And in most realities, it gets easier in some sense. And actually having people to just give you those blueprints and the mindsets is just worth its weight in gold. I actually just think it's ridiculous to think they can not have that. It's like, yeah, you're learning a whole new skill. So that's huge.
So before we get into a little more hands-on habit stuff, I suppose we better talk about some element of marketing as well, because it's what I do, it's what I'm good at, so I should talk about some levels of marketing as well. What I would do differently, now this is very controversial, if I was starting again, is I would do zero marketing. I wouldn't waste my time, I wouldn't waste my energy trying to do social media or trying to build flashy websites or none of that. All I would do is I would go full old school and I would just network, connect up a storm, message everyone I know, ask them out to coffee, ask them out to dinner, lunch, whatever it is, go to all the events, all the networking events. It didn't matter the industry. I would just live on Eventbrite or whatever event platforms in your country and just look for every event that could somewhat be related to services, entrepreneurs, people, helping industries. It didn't matter. And what I did for myself at the beginning is this is how I started, is I literally lived and breathed the startup world. And I went to every meetup, every networking event. And all I did was just connect with people and make offers. I would understand their problems. I would really connect with them at a human level, a business level. And people would be like, oh, we're really struggling to generate leads for our startup. And I'd just simply be like, do you want some help with that? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, we'd love some help. And then just add value, in no way, shape, form charging for it. Just add value, give them all my expertise, all my knowledge, all my support I could think of, and really going in that until there's that backlog of momentum that people really know you for what you are helping them with. And then people naturally come back for more. You've given them a free sample, you've given them a taste. And my favorite thing that I used to say is like, hey, that was one conversation. Imagine if we did this every week. And people were like, that would be incredible. How would we do that? And I'd be like, I'll be your coach. Let's go. We'll do it for this. We'll do it for that. And really just building up that momentum the old school way. So many of us, when we're starting off, we look to other businesses. We might even look at Untapped and be like, they've got a beautiful website. They've got a podcast. They've got all this social media. They've got all these offerings. They do all these things. We did not start here in no way, shape, form. This is 7 years in. This is what we have. So if you're really beginning out, logos and brands don't matter. Websites don't matter. Social media doesn't matter. Just connect and really add value. Then what I would do differently, and I think B, you might agree on this, is then don't jump onto social media, but start creating evergreen content. And what that means is content that will last, that will survive. And if you're really good at writing, do blogs. If you're really good at speaking, perhaps a podcast. If you're good on video, good on camera, YouTube, whatever it is, but make long form content first. Really get your IP out there in a way that will live on in the internet, not filling the hole of the black void of social media would be the next steps after you've got some momentum. Now, someone says, when do you transition? We've got friends in the space that make over $500,000 in their expertise, consulting, thought leadership coaching, and they don't have a website. They don't have social media. They don't have nothing. So it's possible to make over $500,000 without any social media, without any team. That bridge from 500,000 up, you usually need a bit of marketing and lead gens and team, but you can easily earn $500,000 without any online marketing at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Evergreen piece is really huge and was for me as well, as I used to spend so long overthinking a social media post, a post on Facebook or a post on Instagram. Like I would spend a day and I would do these challenges, like got to post every day, and then sit there and overthink it and then post and then delete it or edit it or whatever it was. And then to think, that, yeah, you have a pretty grid, but actually all of that content just kind of goes into the ether. Someone sees it and then it's the next thing. Like I spent years doing that as well. And when we actually started the Untapped podcast, that's when really clarifying the thought leadership, really building a deeper relationship with our audience, like the people, for those of you listening who might have been listening from the start, they really hear the journey. I could express myself in more depth than what I could do on social media. So that was huge, having that long form content. And it became a real asset over the years, because suddenly you have this amazing asset of, books or blogs or podcasts, and you've got an episode for everything. And every time someone asks you something, you make this amazing episode, you can cut it into reels, you can make a blog from it, and you can just get that repurposing engine going. I wish we did that earlier. I would absolutely be doing that. I agree with you, Dee. It's just like start documenting that journey, start putting your thought leadership into long form content, so you have this like library asset bank of all the ways you think, because that for the long term is just so much easier. And for the game of social media is so much easier if you have all of those assets there too, when you hire someone. So that's huge. Amazing. Okay. Any final?
I think I have a last question for you, and it's kind of to summarize. And it would be like, what would be one habit you would implore you do from the very beginning? Could be personal to support business, could be business to support personal. Just like, what is one habit you would do daily or semi-daily consistently to really get the momentum going when you're first starting out again?
Yeah. So you have to have, I have two. I'm going to do two. I'm doing one personal and one business.
Perfect.
Personal habit, record the vision of what you want to create in your life and business, do a voice memo to yourself and play that thing back every single day. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or a 20-minute visualization, just have that in your ears. The identity, the power of who you are, the vision of what you're creating, the impact you make for your clients, put it in a voice note and just listen to it every day. Because in the beginning, you're creating a reality you've never seen yourself create. And you're going to have naysayers, and you're going to have people that don't believe in you, and you're going to have people that think you've gone, off the side, just not making any sense anymore. And you need a grounded anchor, and you've got to be that person for yourself. So I would record that vision, and I did record that vision and listen to it every single day. And then on the business front, when you're first starting out and you're really trying to get that revenue going, and actually this is a skill, I've talked about this, but you need this through all of business, is engage in 5 conversations a day. No matter what. Whether you're in a Facebook group, whether you're in your Instagram, whether you message an old friend, whether you message everyone on your LinkedIn, engage in 5 conversations a day. So in one of the programs we did, we had to message like 200 people from our past lives, like our old school friends, uni friends, and be like, hey, this is what I'm up to these days. This is what I do now with my life. Like, how are you? And boom, that started a conversation. And I remember feeling absolutely sick to my stomach about doing that. But the amount of conversations that started, and this whole like reintroducing myself in this new identity, and then people being like, oh, that's so cool you're doing that. Like, I'd be interested, send me the info, or I know someone. Like, just really being in the number of conversations, welcoming every follower, every person who follows you on Instagram. Hey, I still do this to this day because I did this habit 5 a day. I sat in bed the other day for an hour and a half. Yes, if you're on Untapped Instagram and you got a hello, it was me personally. It's not a bot. And I go on their page and I have a look and I see what their vibe is. And I'm like, cool. Wow, they're creating amazing stuff. And I send them a quick message. I used to send voice notes as well. And one time I had this student register into our program and she was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like 3 months ago, you sent me this voice note. It was so nice. And I could tell it was you because it was a voice note. And I freaked out how nice it was. And I never messaged you back, but I just want to say thanks for that message. And it's like 5 conversations a day, no matter what, because you're trying to get your sales up, you're trying to get your network up, you need to be in communication. If you're sitting there in isolation making cute Instagram posts, you will not build a business. It is not how a business is built. So doing those unscalable number of conversations mean like we're a network of communication. It all comes down to communication. So you need to be in conversation. So those would be my 2 habits every day. One for you, your vision. One for your business is doing 5 direct messages or 5 conversations a day. How about you, Dee? Number 1 habit.
I love that. Just really that reminder that business is human to human, not Instagram post to Instagram post, you know? For me personally, I think it would be that stark reminder that when you step into entrepreneurship or thought leadership or growing a business, is that it is the ultimate personal growth. And you're going to be challenged on your money stuff. You're going to be challenged on your connection, on your rejection, on your wanted, on your values, on your mark, everything. You're going to be stepping into a new version of yourself. And I think it's really leaning into that and knowing that this is going to take a new version of myself. I cannot do this with the old way I did things, because what got you here won't get you there. So it's really leaning into that question on who do I get to become in order to achieve this? What new mindsets, what new skill sets? And with that, leaning into now the business framework is eliminating this notion of what can I get? If you say the word get, you're going to fail. In the simple sense of like, how do I get a lead? How do I get a sale? How do I get more money? You're going to fail. You really need to lean into like, what can I give? I've made this vision. I want to have a multi-million-dollar thought leadership business, rather than being like, how do I get leads? How do I get clients? Focus on what am I willing to give in order for that? How much value am I willing to give? I give it all away. Give would be the ultimate thing to really prioritize on in your business, and you will succeed. Whoever gives the most value will win. It's that simple. No other way around it. It's that simple. So I would prioritize self-care for the personal side, because you're going to be giving out so much. Your cup is going to be very empty. So gymming and eating healthy is no longer going to be enough. You're going to have to really ramp up that self-care game. And the other is just focus on what you can give. Don't even think about what you can get. And the money will flow, the business will grow, and it'll be the best thing you've ever done in your life.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, the money absolutely will flow. It's the value exchange. Amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. We would love to hear what insights you got from this. Drop us a message and let us know.